That's what I'm trying to figure out is, so the background check is verifying whether they have criminal record in the United States.
We seek, to the extent we can get it, to also get information on criminal history in the country of origin.
Okay. This is just an ongoing issue because we have parents or relatives that have come to the United States illegally across the border, who've worked here for years, who have sent a message back home, and then they're out paying someone to be able to transition them through Mexico to be able to come here, and then we're delivering them the last mile back to their families to be able to reunite families in that sense of someone who's not legally present here, and then also with a child that they transited with someone who's a non-relative through Mexico to get here. Is that the typical story, mostly teenagers?
It is mostly teenagers. I don't have any way of knowing how many of them it was the parent that did the transition, but the scenario you described would not be uncommon.
Okay, thank you. In our hearing last week, TVPRA and Flores came up as the two biggest issues by far. Mr. Garces, you were very clear to just say Congress needs to act. Last week, it was very specific. What we need Congress to do is address Flores and TVPRA. Is that your opinion of what needs to be addressed?
Yes, agree. To allow families to stay together through the Flores agreement, and then the TVRP to allow the repatriation to non-contiguous countries.
Okay, Mr. Garces.
Completely agree.
How many individuals do we have coming in, family groups that are coming from Mexico?
Very small number right now, Senator. I mean, the vast majority,
So
65.
give me a ballpark guess.
Yeah,
is this 2% or is this?
I would have to get those numbers for you. I mean, but 65% on the Central American families that we're seeing coming across the border, but very small percentage of Mexicans with families.
So you're saying 65%, is that what you said?
Yes.
Those are families from
Central America,
Central
Triangle
America?
countries.
So the other 35% of the folks are coming from where?
Well, Mexico, but we're also seeing them from different parts of the world in the people that we apprehend. But
You'd mentioned just in your region there
Yes.
are 50 different nations
Yes, sir.
represented. I didn't get the time period on that. Is that this fiscal year?
just for this fiscal year, yes.
Okay. So in the last 6 months, you've seen 50 different countries
Yes.
coming that are family units.
Not family units, single
period.
Adults who are trying to evade arrest.
Okay. So go ahead, Ms. Shaw. So the question becomes very difficult here on how to be able to manage the personnel. Ms. Shaw, you mentioned before when you pull people off of the land ports of entries to be able to manage what's happening between ports of entries, it has a real effect. 4 hours of wait time for a truck to be able to get in and going all the way through an entire day, and there are some trucks that never got processed. They go in the next day, makes the next day even harder, obviously, as well to be able to move. What do you see as the snowball effect of having to be able to move people to the between ports of entries to what's happening at the land ports of entries for long-term shipping and trade?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I think you've stated it, and that is, we've pulled 545 frontline officers that normally work cargo and passenger vehicles. And what we're seeing is what I mentioned in my opening remarks. We're seeing double the wait times in both POV and cargo. And this is an immediate response to the crisis that we're seeing in between the ports of entry.
The issue of fake families was brought up. Individuals that are coming with a child that is not their own or not directly related to. How has that changed in the last year or two and what you've seen?
I will tell you that back in 2014, less than 1% of the males that were apprehended actually came with a child. Right now, it's 50%. So
50%?
50% of the males that are coming into this country right now have a child with them. They recognize that because of the Flores settlement is that they're not going to be kept in custody. So, I mean, that shows you exactly how they are exploiting the system. And right now, because of volume, it is very difficult for us to spend a great deal of time in interviewing every single person.
So our laws are incentivizing people to be able to travel with a child. In other words, if you get in with a child and put a child through this trauma of all the travel and the transit, then you get in a more expedited process when you get here.
Yes.
The question is on of a child that is not related to the person or is very distant related to the person they're traveling with? What percentage of people, or what kind of numbers are we talking about? Is this 2,000, 3,000? How many have we seen this year?
So I'll have to take that one back for the record. I don't have that offhand, but I can tell you that we have seen the fraudulent family units. We have seen the recycled children.
So when you say recycled children, that's a child that's come,
yes.
somehow they were sent back over and they're
Yes.
showing up again.
And we've also seen, I talked about it earlier, in the fact that the criminal organizations are making significant profits out of the smuggling. People that are released with documents from our facilities, meaning that they can travel anywhere in the country, have been found in stash houses in Houston because they still haven't paid off the criminal organizations. So that shows you just how much control the smuggling organizations have. In RGV, there are 4 specific areas where all family units are routed to. Every other zone in the sector is reserved for narcotics. So very controlled, very organized, very structured.
Mr. Chairman, this is an area that if we don't fix the law, we're continuing to look away from human smuggling. And that is something we should not look away from and should not ignore. And what I keep hearing over and over again from every panel is they need Congress to act on these areas, or this never gets better.
What I said in the opening statement, this is a problem in the here and now, and we need to act now. I thought it was interesting in last week's hearing, the witnesses said that the border is completely controlled on the southern side by the drug cartels. Nobody's moving through there without paying the fee, paying the ransom, basically. So we need to recognize this. We need to act. Senator Romney.